Instruments are done for the demo, so let's talk vocals. Hello, I'm back. I am still Emma Mae, and I am still a singer-songwriter. And this video, video 4 in the series, is all about vocals, pretty much. Before we begin, I just want to say thanks again to Aux for having me on this series. Make sure you check out aux.app if you're someone in the music industry and you want to find a new way of collaborating. If you haven't watched the previous 3 videos, go and watch them because you won't understand what's going on, because we're very much in the middle of something right now. So go and join the club and then come back. Recording is something that a lot of songwriters tend to struggle with because we're songwriters. We're not these kind of people. This is confusing. This is really hard. Basically the point I want to get across in this video is that we can do it ourselves. I'm going to give you some tips about vocal arrangements at the demo stage at least. I'm going to start recording in the song that I have written onto the backing track that I have created, and you're going to watch me do it. So let's begin. I tend to start with the verses. Well, that's a lie. I tend to start by singing the song through a couple times to warm up, but I'm not going to do that because that'd be really boring for this video. Like I said, tend to start with the verses because they are first. They're usually a lot softer, a lot less belty than the choruses, so you're easing yourself in. And I also, in terms of like actually being a vocalist, singing the verses first, you sort of still have that, you're not completely warmed up and it sounds a bit like raw and innocent and a bit nicer than after you've just belted a chorus for like 2 hours. So yeah, I'm gonna start by recording the verse. Headphones, always use headphones. So we're gonna start recording the verse. Giving yourself a count in is always a good idea. So let's just give it a go, see what happens. Also playing the song to yourself first so you know what key it's in. Always a good idea before you begin. Right, let's try that again. I met him in October at a festival I forgot I played till now. He walked past me on his phone, was on the way to my hotel. I never thought much of it till I realized that I wanted it. We went for burgers, drinking God knows what, somewhere I'd never been. Explored the South Bank, taking pictures of Trafalgar Square and me. Then on the district line, we shared a kiss goodbye. And I thank God that I turned back for him. I thought he could have been the one, but boy, how I was wrong. Guess I should have known better. Yay.
Great job.
Let's listen back to it. That way. In October at a festival, I forgot I played till now. He walked past me on his phone, was on the way to my hotel. I never thought much of it till I realized that I wanted him. Obviously it needs a lot of compression and a little bit of reverb. This is the point, it's a process.
It's just a demo.
It's just a demo. We've done the verse. And we did the pre-chorus because I forgot to stop singing. I tend to sort of skip to verse 2 at this point. I'm in verse mode, so that's what we're doing. There's not much interesting to do in verses, to be honest. I don't tend to do anything exciting to them. It's just pretty much verse, one sort of like vocal line instead of doubling anything. I might do the odd harmony, but in this one, I think if you sort of cover it in harmonies, the message will get a bit lost because there's too many layers, that kind of thing. My point is the chorus, because that's where things get interesting, and that's basically what I want to explain. What I do for choruses is this. I always start with one take of the vocals. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll explain the many things I do. All my boyfriends leave the country or cheat on me or get sick of the ways I turn them into stories and then sing about them on all those little stages. There's backing vocals here, I promise. We're getting there. Guess I haven't quite found the one yet. Someone nice and tall and perfect who doesn't treat me like I'm a reject and then move in with this girlfriend Alright, now we have our chorus. We're gonna add in the bits in between. So what I tend to do with this, or at least with these ones, I've obviously got that big gap in the middle of the two halves of my chorus, and you may have heard in video 2 when I actually played it, there's sort of like a backing vocal-esque kind of like riff in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double it and harmonize it and make it slightly insane. So backing vocals that may sound really weird without actual sound behind them, but that's not the point. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double it 7,000 times so it sounds like crowd vocals, because that's always fun to do. And we're gonna harmonize. So for my choruses, I tend to sort of just like double a million times and then add another harmony and then sort of double the harmony. So everything just gets a lot bigger and a lot more interesting, and it's all very exciting. And you'll have something that sounds pretty cool by the end of it. Producers tend to really like it because they have loads of vocal takes to work with. 5 minutes later, we now have, I'm gonna take these off, a doubled backing vocal that sounds a little bit like this. Stories and then sing about them on all those little stages. There you go. Lots of panning going on as well. It's always good to pan backing vocals. If you want to, you can double the chorus and then pan one to one side and get another double and pan it to the other side and then turn them down really low. It's all very nice.
Love a bit of harmony. What thought process do you have in terms of picking what notes to sing harmonies? Is it dependent on the song? Do you just always go for a third because it sounds the nicest?
Pretty much, yeah. If it's a slow one and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go for like proper, we're gonna harmonize everything sort of vibe, I'll do a third and a fifth because I'm like, that sounds pretty. I've done a couple really weird ones where I've done some really weird harmonies, like sevenths and stuff, and it's just all a bit like, whoa, what's going on here? Like Billie Eilish kind of vibes. But I'd say for like my typical sort of bitch pop stuff, it's thirds. I do this thing quite a lot where second verse, if it's like a double second verse, I'll come in straight with the third, and then on the second half I'll add the fifth as well. And it's all just like, well, what's going on? Loads of harmonies.
When you're writing the song, do you hear the harmonies in mind as you're doing it?
My friends think I'm really weird for this. So if I'm listening to music, so I don't think about harmonies whilst I'm writing, I just try and write the song. But when I'm listening back to it, or I listen to literally any music, pretty much ever, I won't sing the melody, I'll sing a harmony.
You're one of those people.
I am one of those people. It's really annoying. So yeah, I don't really plan it. It just sort of comes out. But I quite like harmonies on a chorus and then harmony on like the second verse as well. And it's sort of like a building situation. Next, we're going to add effects. You've got your vocals in. Always good to add compression. As far as I'm aware, you turn this thingy up a tiny bit, this thingy down a little bit, and then see what it sounds like. That's how it works in my brain. Met him in October at a festival, I forgot I played till now. He walked past me on his phone, was on the way to my home. My real producer will do this for me. Reverb is always good to get a good sort of idea of how it might sound, less completely just straight off the recording bat, if that makes sense. Let's see what it sounds like. Met him in October at a festival, I forgot I played till now. He walked past me on his phone, was on the way to my hotel. I never thought much of it. I'm basically shortening the length of the reverb so it's not so intense. I met him in October at a festival, I forgot I played till now. He walked past me. That's a good amount of reverb. I always tend to use too much reverb, but I like the way it sounds. At a demo stage, it doesn't particularly matter, but it's always a good idea to put on some vague things so you can get some sort of idea of what it might sound like eventually. In the chorus, in your big fancy doubled bit, I tend to put loads of reverb on backing vocals and harmonies just because I think it sounds really cool. Little tip, it's always good to use a bus when you're adding the same reverb to everything so you don't have to do it 7,000 times. It basically just means it comes over here and then you turn it on. Is that a good amount of reverb? Let's turn that one up a bit. And add the bus to all of, it's an aux. It is, isn't it? That's funny. Branding. We're gonna have some reverb on this, turn that down, and you sort of end up with something that sounds a little bit more, fingers crossed. About them on all those little stages. Obviously we'll tune it as well. Things like that, you're just sort of getting your vocals to the point where your producer will know what you mean. Another little fun thing to do is flex pitching, there we go, which is basically auto-tune. And you cheaty way of doing it, you go in here, you click track, you turn on the flex pitch, it's this little button that looks like a DNA thing. You zoom out, you highlight them all, and then you just sort of pitch correct it, so it's correct. 'Cause all my boyfriends leave the country or cheat on me or get sick of the ways I turn them into stories and then think about that. That sounds way better already. So, point is, there's no shame in auto-tune. The whole point of this sort of exercise is to get the right kind of vibe. So you go back to stylizing in like the first video that we talked about. Even in the demo stage, I feel like capturing a good vocal take is really important because honestly, you can hear what mood you're in when you record. Like, your producers can know if you're like having a bad day by the vocal takes. A good tip for that is if it's like a happy song, just honestly smile while singing. Like, you might look slightly insane, but you can do it by yourself. No one has to look at you. Smile while singing and you will be able to hear that you are smiling. It's things like that that really help with the vibe, and especially if you're collaborating with someone like a producer, they are gonna take a lot of influence from the vocals you give them. If you're singing a happy song and you sound miserable, for example, it's not gonna sound like anything good. I've done sad songs where I sound too happy.
How much thought and preparation do you put into, whether it's for the demo or the final recording? So for example, in like your first video, you mentioned like things like dynamics.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that's for instrumentation, but does that apply to your vocals as well?
Definitely, yeah. So dynamics are fairly important while recording vocals too, because you're sort of like, if you're in a verse and it's quiet and it's chill and you're belting it, it's not gonna quite work. I've gone into the studio, I've done songs before where I'm like, okay, final chorus, let's belt it. And then later down the line, I've decided to sort of like do that thing at the start of the first half of the last chorus where you make it really quiet, but my vocal take is belting it and it sounds awful. So I've had to go and do it again. So it's like the way you sing is really important.
Do you map it out before you start recording, or will you sort of start recording and work it out as you're going?
If I've written the song, which I usually have, it's sort of, I don't need to map out what kind of vibe I'm giving off while I'm singing when I start recording, because I sort of already know. It's like instinct, if that makes sense. And I think for a lot of songwriters, because songs are so personal to them, that will just come across already. But if I'm doing a top line or someone else's song, for example, it takes a few listens to get used to the vibe, and you have to really think about, okay, what am I trying to portray whilst I'm singing at this point? Pay attention, or like to know beforehand what you're trying to say before you say it. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you check out the other videos in these series and all the other videos on the aux channel. Head to aux.app for more information about what they're all about, and make sure you subscribe and like this video as well. That's important too. Bye.